Welcome back to Book Summaries channel. Have you ever wondered why some naturally talented people fail, while others with less talent achieve massive success? Today we're uncovering the secret ingredient to high achievement. In this video, we are diving deep into Grit by Angela Duckworth, a groundbreaking book that proves passion and perseverance are more important than IQ or raw talent. Angela Duckworth begins by challenging the common obsession with talent. She shares her personal experience as a young girl being told by her father that she was no genius, which eventually led her to study what actually makes people successful. She observes that in various high-pressure environments, like West Point's Beast Barracks, it wasn't the highest SAT scores or physical fitness that predicted who would make it through. Instead, it was a quality she calls grit. Grit is the tendency to sustain interest and effort toward very long-term goals. She argues that our culture is biased toward natural talent, which gives us an excuse to give up when we don't immediately excel. By focusing on talent, we overlook the vital role of effort. This chapter sets the stage for a new way of looking at potential. Success isn't just about what you are born with. It's about how you show up day after day. It is about staying committed even when things get difficult. Ultimately, showing up is the first step toward greatness. This chapter explores why we are so enamored with the idea of natural talent. Duckworth suggests that we prefer to believe in genius because it protects our egos. If someone is naturally gifted, we don't have to compete with them or feel bad about our own lack of achievement. She cites research showing that even when people claim to value hard work, they subconsciously favor naturals over strivers. This bias exists in music, athletics, and business alike. However, this fixation on talent distracts us from the reality of how skill is actually built. When we see a finished masterpiece or a gold medal performance, we ignore the thousands of hours of mundane practice that preceded it. Duckworth argues that talent is simply how quickly your skills improve when you invest effort. Skill, however, is not the same as achievement. Achievement happens when you take your acquired skills and apply even more effort. By de-emphasizing talent, we empower ourselves to take control of our own growth. We must stop using lack of talent as a reason to quit. Duckworth introduces a simple but profound mathematical framework for achievement. Talent x effort equals skill, and skill x effort equals achievement. This formula demonstrates that effort is factored into the equation twice, making it much more significant than talent alone. Talent is how fast you learn, but skill is the result of putting in time and practice. You can have immense talent, but never develop skills if you don't put in the work. Similarly, you can have high skills, but never achieve anything if you stop applying effort to produce results. Without effort, your talent is nothing more than unmet potential. Without effort, your skill is nothing more than what you could have done but didn't. This framework explains why strivers eventually surpass naturals who rely solely on their gifts. Effort builds the skill, and then effort makes that skill productive. This realization is incredibly motivating because effort is something we can control. It proves that consistency is the multiplier of our innate abilities. In this chapter, Duckworth introduces the grit scale, a tool she developed to measure passion and perseverance. She clarifies that grit is not just about working hard today. It's about being consistent over the long haul. Gritty individuals have what she calls a top-level goal that organizes everything they do. This top-level goal acts as a compass, giving direction to all lower-level activities. Many people have many low-level goals but lack a unifying vision, leading to a feeling of being scattered. Grit requires stamina of interest as much as it requires stamina of effort. It is the ability to stick with one thing for years rather than jumping from one hobby or career to another. The grit scale measures how much you agree with statements about your focus and resilience. Duckworth notes that grit usually increases with age as we learn to narrow our focus and handle setbacks. Knowing where you stand on the scale is the first step toward improvement. It allows you to see if you need to work more on your passion or your persistence. Duckworth addresses the question of whether grit is fixed or if it can be developed. She explains that like most personality traits, grit is influenced by both genetics and experience. However, she emphasizes that grit is remarkably plastic and can be cultivated through intentional practice. She outlines 4 psychological assets that gritty people share: interest, practice, purpose, and hope. These 4 assets are developed in a specific order over time. First, you discover an interest. Then, you develop the discipline of deliberate practice. Next, you connect that work to a larger purpose. And throughout the process, you maintain hope that your efforts will lead to improvement. This chapter serves as a roadmap for anyone looking to increase their internal grit. It suggests that you don't have to be born with a high grit score to end up with one. Growth is a slow, deliberate process of nurturing these 4 components. Understanding that grit can grow gives us the agency to change our future. It turns a personality trait into a skill that can be mastered. The first step in growing grit from the inside out is discovering and deepening an interest. Duckworth dispels the myth of a sudden epiphany, where a person instantly finds their passion. Instead, she argues that passion is a process of discovery followed by a long period of development. You must first explore various activities to find what resonates with you. This discovery phase should be playful and free from the pressure of mastery. Once an interest is sparked, it must be deepened through active engagement and learning. Many people give up too early because they expect immediate excitement, but true passion requires a thickening of knowledge. Duckworth advises beginners to look for mentors and supportive environments during this stage. It is important to realize that even experts sometimes find their work tedious, but their underlying interest keeps them going. Passion isn't just about what you like, it's about what you stay curious about. By following your curiosity, you lay the foundation for long-term perseverance. This chapter focuses on deliberate practice, a term coined by psychologist Anders Ericsson. It's not just about the number of hours you spend practicing, but the quality of those hours. Deliberate practice involves setting a stretch goal, focusing 100% on the task, seeking immediate and informative feedback, and repeating the process with reflection. Gritty people spend more time in this uncomfortable zone of working on their weaknesses than non-gritty people. While flow is the state of effortless performance, deliberate practice is the difficult work that makes flow possible. Duckworth explains that gritty individuals learn to embrace the challenge and even the boredom of repetition. They understand that frustration is a sign of learning, not a signal to stop. To grow your grit, you must learn to practice like an expert. This means being honest about your flaws and relentlessly trying to fix them. Hard work is only productive when it is targeted and intentional. Mastery is the result of thousands of small, corrected mistakes. Interest and practice are essential, but grit is truly sustained by purpose, the intention to contribute to the well-being of others. Duckworth finds that as people get grittier, they shift their focus from self-oriented motives to other-oriented motives. Purpose provides the why that allows you to endure the how of difficult practice. It connects your daily work to a larger meaning, making it feel significant rather than just a job. You can cultivate purpose by observing how your work benefits society or by finding a role model who lives a life of service. Even seemingly mundane jobs can be transformed through job crafting, where you find ways to make your work more meaningful. Duckworth suggests that the most successful people possess both a pro-social motivation and a personal desire for excellence. Purpose acts as a battery that recharges your resolve when you are tired. It turns a career into a calling. Knowing that your work matters to someone else is a powerful antidote to burnout. Purpose is the ultimate stabilizer of long-term goals. Hope is the 4th asset of grit, but it is different from wishful thinking. Gritty hope is based on the belief that our own efforts can improve our future. It is a growth mindset, a concept developed by Carol Dweck. People with a growth mindset believe that intelligence and ability can be developed through hard work. In contrast, those with a fixed mindset believe their traits are set in stone, leading them to give up when they fail. Gritty people use optimistic self-talk to interpret setbacks as temporary and specific rather than permanent and pervasive. This resilience allows them to keep going when others quit. Duckworth explains that hope is what keeps us in the game during the inevitable low points of the interest, practice, purpose cycle. You can build hope by practicing self-compassion and seeking out growth-oriented feedback. It is about believing in the power of, yet, I haven't mastered this yet. Hope is the internal light that guides us through the dark nights of the soul. It ensures that a failure today doesn't define our tomorrow. Duckworth shifts to how grit can be grown from the outside in, starting with parenting. She introduces the wise parenting model, which combines high levels of support with high levels of demandingness. Wise parents are warm and encouraging, but they also set clear, high standards for their children's behavior and effort. This is in contrast to authoritarian parenting, high demand, low support, or permissive parenting, low demand, high support. Children of wise parents learn that they are capable of doing hard things, and that their parents will be there to help them if they fall. Duckworth also introduces the hard thing rule, used in her own family. Everyone has to do one hard thing that requires deliberate practice, and you cannot quit in the middle of a season or tuition period. This teaches children the value of commitment and the satisfaction of overcoming difficulty. Parenting for grit isn't about crushing a child's spirit. It's about providing the scaffolding for them to build their own resilience. By modeling grit ourselves, we show children that perseverance is a way of life. This chapter examines the role of extracurricular activities in building grit. Duckworth finds that children who participate in organized activities for more than a year show higher levels of grit later in life. These playing fields, whether they are sports, music, or theater, provide a safe environment to experience the cycle of interest, practice, purpose, and hope. Unlike school, where tasks are often assigned, extracurriculars allow for a degree of choice that fosters interest. However, they also require the discipline of showing up for rehearsals or games, even when one doesn't feel like it. Duckworth notes that they follow through on these activities is a better predictor of future success than almost any other metric. It proves that a person can commit to a goal and see it through to completion. These activities build transferable grit that can be applied to academics and career later on. They provide a structured way to practice being gritty. The lesson is that we should encourage long-term commitment to challenging pursuits. Duckworth argues that we are deeply influenced by the culture of the groups we belong to. If you want to be grittier, you should join a gritty culture. In a high-grit organization, like the Seattle Seahawks or a top-tier business, grit is the way we do things here. We have a natural drive to conform to the norms of our group, so being surrounded by gritty people makes it easier to stay committed to your own goals. Culture shapes our identity, and identity drives our behavior. When you identify as a gritty person because your tribe is gritty, you don't even have to make a choice to work hard. You just do it because that's who you are. This identity-based grit is much more sustainable than willpower alone. Leaders can build a culture of grit by emphasizing core values, celebrating perseverance, and supporting members during failures. A strong culture provides a collective sense of purpose and resilience. It turns individual grit into a powerful, shared force. In the final chapter, Duckworth reflects on the value of grit in a well-lived life. While she has spent the book praising grit, she acknowledges that it is not the only thing that matters. Character is multidimensional, including moral character and social character alongside grit character. However, Grit is the engine that allows you to fulfill your potential in any area you choose. She encourages readers to remember that grit can be grown both from the inside out and from the outside in. We have the power to change our mindset, find our purpose, and choose our environments. Success is a marathon, not a sprint, and grit is the stamina to keep running. Duckworth concludes by reiterating that talent is a gift, but grit is a choice we make every day. By focusing on what we can control, our effort and our commitment, we can achieve extraordinary things. She leaves the reader with a final, motivational nudge to go out and find their hard thing and stick with it. Greatness is not for the chosen few. It is for those who refuse to quit.